Greetings, this is Artie from Artifact Electronics. So I got my power amp for this board. I installed it and put the heatsink back on, so the board can be considered to be complete now. And I figured we'd go over some of the other issues remaining and see how much of those we're actually going to be taking care of. So there's the back door, and doesn't really want to go in. It was in really tight, and it's almost to me like the bottom of the cabinet got tweaked a little bit and is pushing the door up. So probably needs some sanding over here. It's not that much, just enough so it slides in smoothly. And of course it's really nice and dirty. You can look at the serial number over here. I guess S/BO stands for Super Breakout number 272. An early example, I'm sure. Other than that, pretty much everything's removed. We have a power block here. It's pretty rusty. Played around already a little bit with fine steel wool, and it is mostly surface rust that seems to come off, so I'm going to clean that up. I'm not going to clean up the chassis. I mean, if this was a Macintosh power block, or mono block I should say, yes, I would probably give this the full treatment, but it's an Atari transformer block, so I'm going to try to get rid of as much of the rust I can on the transformer, and we'll be on our merry way. Other than that, the cabinet has a few dings and scrapes. This is probably the worst one right over here, which needs to be filled in, sanded, and after which time I'll probably install the T-molding for it. And coin door needs to be cleaned out. There's a bit of repainting required. So you get the idea. Another issue was the leg levers, or what was left of them, were in horrible shape. The cabinet was basically sitting on the ground, and water got to them, and all sorts of nice stuff here, but that got mostly fixed. And what was done is I got some mounting plates and put brand new leg levers in there. So now the cabinet is sitting properly off the ground, and you can also level the cabinet so it no longer teeter-totters back and forth. And so that's the start. Alright, we're back. Now, unbeknownst to you, it's been a few days since I had some other stuff to do. And I'm also a bit discouraged, or became a bit discouraged, because even after recapping the monitor, it still looks like crap. The rejuvenation didn't work, kind of faded, it's back to its old evil ways. And even after recapping the monitor, it still looks like this, the voltages are still good. So yeah, it must be the tube. And I'm sure somebody with years of experience in fixing CRTs and black and white ones, if you have any words of advice, I'd love to hear them. But anyway, seeing this was a bit disappointing, so I kind of fast-tracked a lot of the issues I was going to take care of, just to get it going. And hopefully one day, when I find a much better looking monitor, then we can take care of some of the detail work that's left. The biggest problem was that there was a pretty big hole right there in the cabinet that, you know, I don't know whether they slammed it against something while moving or what, but yeah, that had to get fixed. I used Bondo, which is an automotive body filler, to fill in the hole. And that part came out well, but then I painted it and it kind of looks like a kindergarten art project. I am basically not that good at color matching and painting, but I don't have to tell you that, you can see it. But I'll probably get the help of somebody that has more experience and is better at doing it and touch this up for me. But it sure looks a lot better than with a huge gaping hole that you could lose half your hand in when playing this game. We put on new T-moldings, which yeah, they made a pretty big difference. I took the old ones off and they were scratched and gross and not in very good shape, especially the underneath, where because of the missing leg levelers, it was basically being dragged on the floor. So yeah, that part looks better. The control panel got cleaned up a bit more. I haven't touched the coin door. Well, I touched it a little bit, but it needs more work to look better. Did put a lock on it, and the one thing that did work out well, and let's see how well that shows up, probably doesn't. You can kind of see it. The front was pretty badly kicked. I mean, it looked pretty bad, and it would have needed a lot of restoration work. So I took the cheap way out, and I masked the problem by buying this is basically a non-slip self-stick rubber piece that you're supposed to put on stairs to make them non-slip. So I just got 2 pieces of this. Well, I had to get 2 pieces because the pieces they were selling weren't long enough. Cut it properly so the patterns kind of matched up, and then just stuck it on there. And that's probably one of the better looking repairs that I did to this. I can now remove the back cover without a pry bar. There's a part I need for this, and maybe somebody out there can help me with it. So what's missing here is light. Come on, let there be light. Ah, there you go. So see, there's the PCB, and we got the harness plugged right into it. Now what these games used to have was called a filter board that had a connector on it that plugged into the PCB and then latched on to these holes to hold the PCB in place securely, and then the actual harness plugged into the filter board. That board isn't here, and that's what I need. So if you got an Atari style filter board floating around you're willing to let go for cheap, let me know. That's all I need. Well, other than a working monitor, that's all I need to complete this machine. Since I didn't film any of my cabinet handiwork, that would have been really cool to watch, right? Me hand sanding the side of the cabinet and playing it back at 4 times speed and all of that. Anyway, that wasn't worth putting into the video. But of course, what we're going to do is have a brief look at all 3 game modes right now. The first mode is called Double. And all that means is it's like the original Breakout game, except you have 2 paddles. So, let's go. Oh, there's also 2 balls. Oh, crap. This is not very relaxing. It's probably wiser to let a ball go. One of them go and just play with 1 ball. That way you won't lose both because you're trying to save both of them. Okay. Next, we have Cavity, which you can't switch to. You can't switch in the middle of a game. So let's go to test mode, back, coin up the game, and now we can play Cavity, which I think is what I did in the first episode, but so actually Cavity is more like the original, except it's got the 2 extra balls in there, which completely mess you up when they come out. Yeah, this is much more relaxing to play than having the double paddles. Except when you break through to the cavities and you get rained on by the extra balls. See how smooth the paddle moves? Amazing what a 5K pot can do for you. Yeah, I know this is not the most exciting game to watch, but what the hell, right? This is a classic. Oh, see, there we go. I mean, what they've managed to do is create 3 different games that are totally distractive in nature. Well, so much for Cavity. We switch to progressive. Go through this the song and dance again to start over. And coin it up, start, and serve. Now this one's interesting because the wall of bricks will actually move down towards you after a certain amount of time. It's I think the number of bricks you broke, and they reach a certain number. There you go. I don't know if it was the number of bricks or the score itself. But yes, anything is better than the double mode. So again, you know, verify some minimal hand-eye coordination, but that's about it. And now we're going to get lots of points. Oh, a little bit too close for comfort here. And on it goes. So the game works, but another thing that I had a really hard time with was basically aligning the color overlay with the bricks. I mean, it completely depends on those, and there's supposed to be very sharp dividing lines between the different colors, and that of course depends on the screen height. And so I spent a lot of time adjusting screen height and trying to line up everything. I got the bricks lined up, and then the paddle is still kind of poking out a little bit above the blue strip, and finally I gave up because it's good enough. But to say it for the 57th time, we need a new monitor, and once we have a new monitor, then this will be perfectly aligned. Well, thanks so much for watching. I hope it was more enjoyable for you to watch than it was for me getting all angry over the monitor. But it is what it is, and sooner or later monitor will turn up. But it's got a lot of other dings and scratches and cigarette meltings on the bezel, and it'll need quite a bit of more touch-up work to look a lot better than it looks now. But anyway, thumbs up would be appreciated. Subscribe to make sure you see the next one, and leave me a comment. Especially if it's a comment concerning on what I'm being boneheaded about on the monitor. And if you got one of them filter boards floating around. I mean, the filter board, it was really done for FCC regulations, so I think this didn't emit too much RF interference. But it also serves a second purpose, and that is keeping the PCB securely in place. Because it's just kind of sliding in and out the way it is. I can fasten it with zip ties and all of that. But it would be nice to have the original one. See you next time around.